Hey everybody, welcome to Goshen Prepping. Thanks for joining us. We are talking about already we're seeing a pharmaceutical shortage. What's it going to be like when crap hits the fan? Right now, doctors don't even want to prescribe more than a month's worth. And if you are on vital medications, you could be in deep trouble. And more specifically, although I'm not talking about just this during the video, I want to talk about hypertension. Hypertension, there's over 1 billion people on the planet that have hypertension. And it's huge. This is a major problem for the fact that it's such a deadly thing, what the silent killer as they call it. And it's funny because there's so many pharmaceuticals out there to treat hypertension. There are ways to treat it without using pharmaceuticals. And I figured there'd be a perfect video to put out to let you know, especially with hypertension, there's hope. But again, it's not just hypertension. Stay to the end. I'm going to talk about something that's going to be, it's a game changer when it comes to being healthy. So stick through the video, but you're going to find all kinds of tidbits through the video anyway. Hey, let's get right to it because the video is going to be long. All right. First off, our disclaimer. I am not telling you to go off your medications. That's between you and your doctor. I'm just going to tell you how I did it. And the disclaimer is I am a physician. However, I don't practice anymore. I sustained a brain injury in the military, and I can't remember all those good old facts that you need to know to practice. Okay, quickly, history for myself. I used to weigh over 260 pounds. My job, I was a college professor. I literally just stood in front of class all the time, didn't really get a lot of exercise and such, and my blood pressure was through the roof, way, way up there. And I knew it was a ticking time bomb. I knew it was, even as a doctor. But it was one of those things where the last thing I want to do is go on medications because I've heard all kinds of from my patients, bad things that they have to go through on those medications. I was like, always told myself, I'll change, I'll fix this myself, I'll do it. And I kept doing this over and over again, day after day, month after month, year after year, before I finally said, all right, I love my kids. I love my wife. I want to be there for them. I need to make a serious change. And if I'm going to somehow change my blood pressure without going on pharmaceuticals, I need to do it. And I did. So I started a regimen, a path or a journey, as you will, to head down that path. And long story short, I did it. My blood pressure is now under control, which is amazing. It blows my mind and for the fact that there are ways to do it outside of pharmaceuticals. So as prepping goes, if you have hypertension, or maybe even you're not even on pharmaceuticals yet, but you want to try to find a way to maybe change it the way I did. Again, I'm not telling you to do this by any means, especially for the fact that if you start doing some of these things, and you are on hypertension medication, that could be in big trouble for the fact that it may drop your blood pressure too much, and it may cause more problems. All right. So how did I do this? I mean, let's not even talk about for the fact that hypertension is the #1 death globally. It is something we need to look at. All right. So how did I change? The very first thing is, and don't turn off the video, diet. I'm not saying it's time to cut back on your food and not eat this and munch on lettuce all day. I'm certainly not saying that at all. However, when we talk about diet, you just need to change your diet to something that's healthier. And the first thing I tell everybody flat out is get away from carbs. Carbs are evil, evil, evil. I'm obviously talking about more specifically simple sugars from high fructose corn syrup to candy, to all that crap. But I'm telling you right now, if you want to, and by the way, there's a correlation between people who are overweight or obese and hypertension as well, and maybe you fit in that category, you're going to have to lose the weight. And we did it through keto, and I'm not talking about just simply cutting out simple sugars like candy and stuff. We cut out carbs. At the very beginning, by the way, we did what we call dirty keto. We didn't know it. We were still learning how to do keto at the beginning. And we lost probably like 15 or 20 pounds just by cutting out the sugar and the sodas and all that stuff. But then we hit kind of like a plateau. And that's when I was like, I need to really dive into this and see, well, maybe I'm not doing the keto like I'm supposed to. And sure enough, there's carbs in everything. We desire on our flavor to have carbs, and food manufacturers know this. So they load up with things with carbs to give you that extra flavor. And so once I was able to narrow down what I should eat and what I shouldn't, the weight started coming off again. It's still coming off. I still have a good, I don't know, maybe 15 pounds to go, but it came off very quickly and very easily. I wasn't starving. That's the worst thing about diets too. Counting calories and starving yourself. It wasn't like that at all. What do I eat? I eat a lot of meats and cheese. That's honestly, that's me anyway. You can go on a keto diet without having to go on meat and cheese. I mean, I guess you can call that almost like a carnivore. Carnivore diets have a little bit differences too, but either one, they're actually practically have a lot of the similarities to them. But by the way, when I talk about burgers, I don't mean simply just like like meats, like perfect steaks and burgers. I eat fried foods. And it's funny how medicine will tell you fried food is like the worst thing ever. It'll raise your cholesterol. It'll kill you. Yet it's really funny. For well over a year, I've been eating lots and lots and lots of fried food. And I literally just had my cholesterol checked, and it's the best it's ever been in my entire life. There's more to it than simply just fried foods, by the way. That's what they tell you. And I'm not really blaming modern medicine. They're trying their best to make connections and try to make people as healthy as possible. But the funny part about that is, and listen to this very carefully, when it comes to sugars, I don't care if it's simple sugars, complex carbs, maybe you're eating some potatoes, or possibly even some carrots. Carrots, especially steamed carrots, have a lot of carbs in them. They're not keto friendly. And there's one thing, medically speaking, you need to understand very, very clearly. I'm going to say this, that it's not fat. By eating fat, it's not fat that makes you fat. It's eating carbohydrates that makes you fat. And this is something that I've actually had a lot of people with backlash on the channel tell me. They'll say, oh, no, you're wrong. I'm a doctor. This is stuff I've studied. I'm a scientist. I have gone through in detail reading research article after research article. It is carbs that make you fat. And understand, this is a great human mankind self-defense system, because as we went throughout history, there was not a lot of people in history who ate a lot of animals. It was usually a lot of garden stuff because, trying to have the animals eat them all the time was expensive or difficult. And getting fat meant survival. And I know that's contradicting what I'm telling you now, but in reality it's not, because getting fat back then meant survival through the winter and stuff. People lived to the ripe age of 40. But here we are today, we want to live till 80. And by doing that, obesity, they say that hypertension, they say cardiovascular disease is the number one killer, but it has a direct link to obesity. And by eating all these simple sugars and drinking sodas and eating candy and eating a lot of processed food and such, it's making us extremely fat, obese. I mean, at the very least overweight, but obesity. And the obesity takes a toll on your heart. So modern medicine will tell you cardiovascular disease is the worst thing, but it's cardiovascular disease. It's secondary to obesity. You have to understand that's how it works. And it's from sugars. It's adamantly clear that fat does not make you fat. When you eat a certain number of sugars, which doesn't take much, by the way, it raises your blood sugar up. And when it gets to a certain level, your body, as a safeguard mechanism, oh, wow, you really had a feast, didn't you? Let's save a lot of fat by doing this. And then if you ever have your sugars not high enough, it'll break down that fat and make glucose for you. So you literally could live your entire life never eating glucose or sugar or carbs ever again, not a single ounce of it, and be perfectly happy and healthy. Your body will simply just take those fats and convert it back into glucose, all the glucose you ever need. You never have to eat it. However, you cannot convert glucose to proteins. It doesn't work that way. In fact, I'm going to link a video after this one. It's a little bit older one. Maybe you haven't seen it, but I go into more detail about the biochemistry of how that works. It's actually incredibly fascinating. But people have a really wrong understanding. Not everybody, obviously, but people have wrong understanding, thinking that fats make you fats. So in consequence, what's going on? The FDA, and by the way, a lot of the research studies gone out through universities and stuff, through the FDA also, mind you, they paid off the scientists. They're like, hey, we want to make it look like that sugars are okay, but fats make you fat. And a lot of these scientists, unfortunately, are like, I could use some extra money. Why not? And they were paid off. This is, by the way, this is not speculation. This has been proved. And therefore, time and time again, they would come out and say, sugars are great for you, but you need to have low fat. And so they'd really push low fat everything. And now we see chronic disease states popping up all over the United States especially, but also in the world too. But in the US, where everything's low fat, chronic disease states, including Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is a brain condition secondary for not having the proper lipids you need for metabolism in the brain. There's a connection there, but they still keep pushing low fat this, low fat this, low fat this. Everybody eat low fat. But obesity is at its worst. Interesting, right? It's because they are making the wrong connection there. All right, so you need to go on a diet. You need to get rid of the carbs, by the way. You just need to do it. Get rid of the carbs. They're absolutely horrible for you. I'm not saying you can't go on a diet where you have to eat meat. You can be a vegetarian or something, or maybe just eat like fish, which is like the perfect food, by the way. But either way, you've got to get rid of the carbs. Second, you're going to have to exercise. I mean, by the way, if you think diet and exercise, there we go, I don't want to do this. I mean, honestly, you may as well turn off the video now, because those two things are absolutely linked to obesity and cardiovascular disease and hypertension. And here we are in modern America. We have these incredibly high-paid pill poppers and pharmacy where they're like, you know what, you want to come to my office? You're really fat, by the way, but I won't tell you that. Here, just take these pills. It used to be, they stopped this a few decades ago. It used to be diet and exercise was the number one treatment, but they've done away with that now because pharmaceuticals, they pay really well. All right. Second is exercise. All right. Don't stop the video. We're going to keep going. More important info is coming. Again, wait to the end. There's some really huge things I want you to see. But I'm not saying it has to be like super rigorous. I even tell you walking and swimming are the best exercises you could ever do, ever. They're good. They get your heart rate up, providing you're swimming or walking fast enough. We're not talking about floating in a pool. You actually have to walk fast or swim, try to get some laps in. Even to the point where I actually don't recommend jogging. I love jogging. I love it. But it actually takes a toll on your body. Not to mention, jogging causes an excess release of cortisol, which causes you to retain fat. So they found through studies that very rigorous things like running, which causes so much pain, you'll cause more cortisol release. You actually may gain more weight in the long run if you're a jogger. For me and my family, we're martial artists, every single one of us. And that's just us. It's not even simply just the exercises of kicking and sparring, which is so cardiovascular, but we do a lot of fitness with it too. As teachers, we teach our students fitness, and I really wish I could get them to eat right as well, but they can only do so much. But that's us. We like to do all those things. You're going to have to do some kind of exercise routine 3 days a week where you're getting your heart rate up. So start that too. So start with a keto, start cutting carbs. You don't have to go directly in keto. And you're going to have to start doing some exercise. And you'll start noticing the weight going off. But that's only one part of it. We also have to look at replenishing your body. You have to stay hydrated, obviously. But have you ever had a situation where you're drinking water and you drink like a whole liter and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm still so thirsty. Your electrolytes are probably low. And you have to have electrolytes, or you know what? That's a fancy word for salts in your bloodstream. The salts in your bloodstream help you retain water. So if you don't have those salts in there and you drink the water, you'll just pee it right back out again. But it's really funny how modern medicine will tell you that salt exacerbates hypertension. And by the way, some people think that salt causes hypertension, and that's not true at all. If you already have hypertension, and sure enough, if you eat a lot of salty food, you need the electrolytes, by the way, they have to be there, it's going to cause your hypertension to get worse. And I'm not disagreeing with that, by the way. It's true. But you have to understand this. By telling people to limit salts, in my opinion, is like, I don't know, let me tell you what's going on. By limiting salts, it's going to make it so somebody is going to now pee off more water. And if they pee off more water, guess what? As your blood volume goes down, your hypertension comes down. It's kind of like cheating the system. I'm going to dehydrate you just to put less pressure on your heart. Which honestly, if it were a short-term problem, maybe, but we're talking about you're looking at years of doing this, because when you talk about cardiovascular problems from hypertension, it takes years for you to start having problems like congestive heart failure. It's not something that happens overnight or over a year. It takes years for this to develop. So are you telling me you're going to limit your salt and put yourself into a cortisol-ridden, dehydrated state for years because you tell your patients not to eat salt? It's ridiculous. It's, again, the same thing. Well, just take another pill and you'll be happy. Ridiculous. Again, check with your doctor. I can't give medical advice. You know how this works. But either way, I eat salt like it's going out of style. I love the stuff. I love it and everything. I'm the kind of person who likes salty stuff. No, extra salty. I don't know if you're like that too. And I had hypertension. So what's going on here? How did I do this without salt? I mean, without cutting out my salt. I still kept the salt on there. Diet, exercise, and some other things are coming too. All made it so my blood pressure dropped back to normal again. It's not the salt. So by telling a patient to limit your salt, so therefore you're limiting your water in your body too to drop down your blood pressure, it's kind of like saying, you know what, you need to lose weight, so let's cut out your liver. It's ridiculous. You're asking them to have another disease state kick in, but that's what they tell people. You have to have salt, by the way. You have to have those electrolytes to retain water. Okay, so how does this work? I'm going to show you 3 supplements that I take that really have changed my life. In fact, the third one's incredible. And again, if you have hypertension, I can't recommend it to you. This is what I took, and look at the results now. It's incredible. But I'll be honest with you, if you are on hypertension medication, your blood pressure is back to normal. It's not normal, it's still high. You just have drugs masking it. Taking these supplements may drop it even further. So be careful with this. Talk with your doctor. I can't stress that enough. The first one is vitamin K2. Not vitamin K, vitamin K2. This does a couple things for you. One, it's over a long period of time, mind you. This is not one you just take and it's fixed. It decreases calcification of your arteries. When we talk about calcification, we're talking about what's called atherosclerosis. And having calcification in there does 2 things. One, it will actually allow more plaque to develop in your arteries. So instead of actually having a lumen like this, it's like this, puts more strain on your heart, on your whole system, trying to get your blood pumped through. But secondly, through arteriosclerosis, it actually has what's called hardening of the arteries, or your arteries kind of become stiff. Here's a quick understanding of this. Your heart actually needs to rest, by the way. The top chambers pump down, then the bottom chambers pump up and push blood through the top of your heart. And the main artery coming out of the top of your heart here is called the aorta. It's massive. You could literally cut somebody open, grab their aorta, and pick them up from their entire body, and it won't rip. It's like super mega strong Arnold Schwarzenegger of arteries in your body. So what happens is when your ventricles pump, they push the blood up in the aorta. The aorta, watch this, it squeezes, the aorta expands and accepts that blood. Then when your heart goes through about 1/3 of a second relaxing, time for my vacation of 1/3 of a second, the aorta is muscular. It actually squeezes and pushes blood through the rest of your body. So you could almost think of it, your heart has 5 chambers, 2 atria, 2 ventricles, and 1 aorta. Obviously, the aorta is a blood vessel, so you can't count it, but it's kind of like that because when the heart's taking that break, the aorta squeezes. But it has to have that elastic recall. It has to have muscles. It has to have elasticity. And if you have problems where you start having calcification, arteriosclerosis, and your arteries, that's just one artery, but picture throughout your body, your arteries start, getting stiff, then we have a big problem because if they can't pump and push the blood through, you're going to have more blood pressure problems that way as well. Vitamin K2 helps reduce or even eliminate that over a long period of time. The second one I'm going to mention is apple cider vinegar. Now, this is one of those things that, does it help with your blood pressure? I believe so. I say I believe so because studies really are, contradictory. Some say yes, some say no, but there's so many other benefits for it too. Anyways, I might as well go ahead and take it. Actually, it lowers your cholesterol. The studies that I like to read say that so, and also makes it so your arteries overall are healthier as well. So apple cider vinegar, definitely a plus. How much does it help? The decision's still out. Okay, so that takes us to the one that I've been waiting for to show you. Olive leaf extract. Now, they developed this because of Mediterranean diet. I like fish and such, but I don't think for me the Mediterranean diet would work so well. But I still want the benefits of this. Independent study after independent study after independent study. This isn't like apple cider vinegar where some studies say yes, some studies say no. For olive leaf extract, the studies are pretty much, oh yeah, it's incredible. Time after time, here's some of the benefits. One, it reduces your cholesterol, makes it so it can't stick to your blood vessel wall, which is also good, so you won't have heart attacks, or at least reduces it. But as a bonus, it decreases cognitive problems over time. So, your cognitive parts decrease. And when that happens, you can't think straight anymore. Well, that's a big problem. Keeps your brain healthy, decreases cancer, decreases osteoporosis. It's an anti-inflammatory. It'll make you feel better. You're not always in pain. It's an antiviral, antimicrobial, regulates your blood glucose, lowers your glycemic problems, helps treat diabetes, decreases weight gain, manages your appetite, makes you feel full. This stuff's amazing. And by the way, for all 3 of these, I'm going to put links in the description below if you want to pick them up. But at the very least, diet and exercise, and this olive leaf extract is simply incredible. Okay, now with all that happening, we're not talking about in the last year, it's dropped my blood pressure back to a normal range again, which again, it was so high, it was incredible. Simply just decreasing the obesity is huge. But if we're talking about a time coming as preppers in which there's no more pharmaceuticals, doing some kind of regimen like this, honestly now before you hit there is actually even more important. I'll say it one last time. You need to check with your doctor, but you need to take this seriously, because when it comes to hypertension meds and they disappear, that could be it could be catastrophic, obviously. So you got to be able to prepare ahead of time. All right. Either way, I put links below for all this. We need to prep for hypertension too, other pharmaceuticals. I'll try to put more of these videos out if you like them, trying to actually work for specific disease states. But I figure hypertension will be the best one to start off with because, again, 1 billion people on the planet have a problem with hypertension. How about you? I'm curious. Put in the comments below. Do you have hypertension? Are you treating it pharmaceutically speaking? Well, if not, I need to know what you are doing to treat it, because if you don't, they call a silent killer for a reason. And of course, we want to be able to fix this. So anyways, I hope this video helps, and thanks for watching.